Welcome to the Indie KidLit podcast. Join Marti Dumas and Elena Page on their quest to help children's and middle grade authors find the right audience and sell more books. Hi, and welcome to the Indie KidLit podcast. I'm Marti Dumas.
And I'm Elena Page. And today we're joined with a wonderful guest who we've had on before, one of our favourites, Kevin Tumlinson, the author of over 40 books, and I'm sure 45 or 46 by the time next week hits, and the host of the wonderful Word Slinger podcast that I listen to just for the introduction music alone. Makes me feel like I'm transported to the US, and also the Director of Marketing for Draft to Digital. Welcome back to the show, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for having me back. That means I did an okay job last time. That's the way I think of that.
You're all right. I mean, don't get a big head about it. It was okay.
I can't help but have a big head. I have a very Easter Island head. I was a torture to my poor mother.
I'm sure in only the best ways possible.
Yeah.
We mothers love big-headed children. That's great.
Right. Yeah, thanks for having me back on. I'm glad to be here.
So today in particular, we've sort of invited, well, we did invite you on to tell us
Kinda.
Yeah, we sort of thought, hi, Kevin, have you got a bit of time? We wanted to find out and to help our listeners find out more, because there's so many questions and so much curiosity around Draft to Digital's new partnership with Findaway Voices and the audiobook scene and where it's at, how people can get involved. So tell us all about it.
All right, all about it.
Everything.
Back in, I believe it's July. Back in July, we announced our partnership with Findaway and in launching their new program, Voices, which is kind of aimed much more at the indie publisher crowd. Findaway is an interesting company. First of all, they have distribution in about 170 plus countries. I guess if I'm saying plus, I don't say about. So they have distribution in 170 plus countries, I should say markets, and that includes Audible and iTunes. So you can reach basically everywhere an audiobook is distributed. These guys hit it. We met with them several times. They had a very similar sort of work ethic to ours, I guess, a business model as ours. And it led to one conversation after another and a very expensive steak dinner. And, we had a good time with each other and realized that we all have the same general goal, which is to help authors sort of excel and expand their offering and reach more readers. So since we all work very well together, we help them launch that program right now. As of this interview, I mean, we're their only partner. I know they've got others kind of in the works, and we're funneling, several thousand authors their way. That audiobook market has become so important, and our alternatives for so long were ACX. So we wanted to create a viable alternative to ACX, and I think we've done it. I mean, I'm very excited about how this has gone so far. Sorry, I left an awkward pause there.
No, you didn't. But I saw that Elena was about to say a question. So I didn't say mine, and then she was also polite and didn't say hers as well.
I like to think of it as what I gave you was so stunningly fulfilling.
Yeah,
it just
we need to take a moment to digest it.
Right,
like it was just like,
ladies,
let it settle in.
I'm a married. Okay, I'm a married man.
I'm going to write that down so that I can keep that straight.
It's funny because before I got on air, I said, I'm talking to Kevin. I said to my husband, I said, he's got the most sexiest voice. I could listen to it all day. And he looks at me and he's like, he's in America, right? I said, yeah, he's far away. It's all good.
Right. No, I think he's checking. Like, he's in America. How does he have a sexy voice if he's in America? No British accent, no Irish accent. It's just some schmo from Texas and doesn't even have the Texas accent.
Oh dear. All good.
So I was going to ask, how many authors have taken you up on it so far? Like, has there been a strong response, and have there been like huge concerns from the authors that have so far?
I don't have an exact total of that, unfortunately, and I should, because our CEO actually gave me those numbers a few days ago. But I was at NINC, and lots of things have been forgotten since then. But it's quite a few. I mean, it's not like our entire catalog has migrated over there, but it's in the thousands, and that's pretty significant for a program that was just brand new, still smoldering. We have so far, and they've got several hundred books in progress already. Everyone who has talked to me about it has been just completely ecstatic about the whole thing. Very happy. I've had one or two authors who've come to me and said, I'm still working on getting my narrator at a rate that I can afford, because what they do is they'll sort of audition. Well, they'll have narrators audition for you using your own book, using a passage from your book, very similar to ACX. They give you sort of 3 or 4, I think, in a list, and that it includes their rate for the finished hour. So, and we're talking, they've got it down to like you're paying maybe a lot of times $100, $200. I mean, it can get a little pricey per hour, who you're going for, but for the most part, they've made this very affordable. And that's where things are a little different than ACX, by the way. ACX has that royalty split, and these guys opted not to do that at all, because first of all, it's really kind of bad for both the narrator and the author. For the author, it means giving away part of your book. It means giving away some ownership in your book. At ACX, that you're splitting if you're using that narrator and you do it at royalty split, and he owns half that book for life, really. Or until at least the life of that version of the audiobook. And then if you sign exclusivity with ACX, there's like a 7-year lockdown on, distribution. We don't like that. So we Findaway Voices has no lockdown, no exclusivity, no royalty split. You own your book and you can do what you want with it. So that's everyone who's encountered that has been very happy about it. The 1 or 2 grumblings I've heard have been things like, well, they haven't quite found, I didn't want to pay $200 per finished hour. I want to pay more like, $75 per finished hour, and they haven't found anybody for me yet. So that's the way things work when you have a pool of talent and they set their own rates. So they're working on,
So I just want to pause you for a second to like give a plug for the time of audiobook narrators. So a little known, maybe not so little known fact about me is that about 50% of my income as a creative, which is I'm a full-time creative. So about 50% of my income as a creative comes from narrating audiobooks.
Excellent.
And it takes about 6 hours of work between me and the editor to be able to produce a finished hour of audio. So when you're saying to somebody that you want to pay them $75 per finished hour, you're really telling them that you want to pay them about $10 per finished hour, per actual hour, which is not a livable wage, really.
Right. Now that's the other side of this too, by the way, is this isn't just about protecting the interests of the author. The narrators are kind of getting screwed by ACX when it comes down to it. Because that royalty split sounds pretty attractive, but if both of you aren't sort of on the same level marketing wise, you're not both promoting in the same way, then the narrator ends up kind of losing out on that time. It's an investment that they never get repaid for. In this process, you get paid. I mean, it's that as a narrator, that's what this does. You get paid up front. You don't have any ownership in the book, but you get paid. You set your rate, so you determine whether or not you're going to have the work and whether or not, so there are nuances to that.
$265 an hour. Yeah. Union rates are $265 an hour. So you can, per finished hour. So you can, be lower or higher depending on where you are in that, in your development as a narrator.
Right. Yeah. No, nobody's trying. By the way, no one's trying to force narrators down on their rate. They're just having people apply. And this is
no. I'm talking to our author friends because I know how it goes on both sides of it, right? So like as an author, you're thinking, I've already put in so many hours into my writing, and I invested a lot of hours into my writing and doing it, and no one paid me, right? So then the narrator should also invest that same amount of and also be willing to take the same gamble. It's a lot of gamble. So I'm just kind of laying it out because for a lot of people, they haven't thought about the other side of it. So I'm less talking to you, Kevin, who I know like does a lot of this stuff, and more talking to our peeps.
Yeah. I'm actually looking at doing my own narration just because it's something I've always wanted to do. And I think I could probably be okay. I think I could be average at it, honestly. I don't think I'm going to excel at this one for a while because there's some sort of performance to it, and where I might be very eloquent on the air, I don't know that I have the performance side down for that book yet. But I'm working on it.
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah, and that I should mention, by the way, that's an option for anyone if they want to bring in their own audio file. If you have your audiobook produced for Audible, for example, and it's not exclusive, you can bring that audio file in. If you do it through Draft to Digital, you don't have to pay the $49 per book admin fee, so you can save some overhead. You bring that audiobook file in, and they'll distribute it for free, so there's no overhead at all at that point for you. And their model is very much like ours. They make money, and I have a whole scale on a blog post I can share at some point, but they make their money on the distribution, just like we do. You get 80% of their royalty on every sale, and you can set your price. So the only place you can't do that is Audible. Audible will always set its price. But we also know that Amazon likes to price match. So if you can get your book down to whatever you want your price to be elsewhere, there's a good chance that they may price match it at Audible. That opens up so many interesting opportunities for authors. And there's a whole strategy that I've been kind of pitching because for the first time, with the control of our pricing, we're able to do the same sorts of things that we do in the ebook world. Audible has a great system for its time, but it has some drawbacks, and those drawbacks come usually in the form of those credits, right? And I love the credits. I pay for credits every month, and I get my 2 books every month. But therein lies the problem, right? We have a system that encourages me to maybe get only 2 books a month because the books are $40 and up. If I want to buy a book, sometimes they can be outrageously high, and there's a less chance that I'm going to try a new author I've never heard of, and less chance that I'm going to try a book that's less than 20 hours long because I'm using up a valuable credit, right? So I'm automatically limiting myself with this credit system. What we have now as an opportunity with Voices and Draft Digital, since you can set your own price, you can actually put up shorter works if you want. If you want to do like a serialized set of short stories, price them at 99 cents if you want. Price the first book in your series free. Price under the going market rate for audiobooks on everything. Price your books at $7 instead of $25. And what you'll see, I believe, as time goes by, readers are going to be far more willing to go ahead and just purchase a book because they won't have to use up a credit. They'll try out shorter works, especially if they get a first book free. They'll try out a series or they'll try out a shorter work, and you can hook them the same way we can in ebooks. We've never had that ability before. So we're at this incredible crossroads where we actually have finer control over what we can do. If you are just coming in and your overhead is tight as it is, if your budget's tight as it is, you can record your own book if you need to. It's not always advisable for everyone, but you can do it, right? Those options didn't really exist the option to record your own book always existed, but you got to meet those quality guidelines. But there are ways now for us to enter the market that were not there before, and to give us more control.
The price adjusting thing is huge. Is absolutely huge, because as you mentioned, Audible straight prices based on the length of your book, and that's it, right? You might be invited into a sale, you might not, right? There is pretty good visibility on Audible's charts. Like if you're ranking on Audible's charts, then you'll keep sales going for a good little while, but like there's not a whole bunch of other discoverability inside of the Audible system.
Right.
Do you know if
you get to keep all that, by the way,
is in Findaway Voices?
Oh, I think I
discoverability.
Well, there is some. Well, first of all, everything that you are able to do in Audible, you can still do. All right, so the discoverability is still there in Audible. You know how it is with other vendors. Amazon knows how this stuff works. They have their algorithms. They do these pushes. Other vendors haven't always caught up to that. But with new and emerging markets, Kobo's in this market now. These are smart guys. They're going to figure this stuff out. As far as I know, actually, I don't think that Findaway Voices has like a promotions program yet. I think Kelly Lytle, by the way, is the guy heading that program. He and I have talked about this kind of stuff extensively. I'm sure at some point he told me, that they have something in the works, but I can't promise it.
I did not get you in trouble with Kelly, like for not remembering
Kelly,
word for word.
Kelly and I are a good guy. He and I nearly made out on the stage at NINC when Draft Digital and Findaway Voices hosted a karaoke night at NINC, and he came up and we had a little smooch. Yeah, we had a little smooch on stage. So these, and I'm sorry, Kelly, for outing you on that one, if you're listening. But the thing is, you get all the same controls that you had before with Audible, for example. Apple has promo codes you can get as well. You can contact us usually for that kind of thing. On the audiobook side, I think the promo code stuff still works the same, but you can always ask. And I must apologize to Tara, who's going to get a flood of emails now.
Sorry, Tara.
But you can get promo codes for iBooks. So I'm certain that they're applicable to, because that's the sort of thing usually works across the board for Apple. But the discoverability question, of course, that's the big golden egg that everybody's after. And I wish I could say that all vendors are on board and they're all doing things right, but they're not. And it's sort of left. However, the audiobook market isn't quite as saturated as the ebook market. And you do have people discovering your work a little easier. So if you're good at keyword tuning, the way we're trained to be for ebooks, a lot of authors coming in on the SEO side of things in audiobooks don't know how to do that, So I would say start looking at things like KDP Rocket and Merchant Words and figuring out keywords that work for you. If it's going to work on Amazon, it'll probably work on Audible, and start using that to fine tune yourself. And then as you're out there in other markets, there's an interesting thing that happens. I talked to the guys at Self-Publishing Podcast about this a while back, and they I won't share any of their numbers of the book or any of that, but they had a book no one really knew about. They don't advertise it on their show because they're trying to keep their also bots sane, but with no marketing whatsoever, one of their audiobooks had sold, quite a few copies. All right. And I pointed out that, that was just from being stumbled upon on Audible. Imagine if you're in 170 plus markets, if you have this, even half of that ratio, you're going to see this huge spike in audiobook sales worldwide. So having your book available on its just available is already kind of a discoverability benefit. It's not a guarantee, of course, but the stumble upon rate goes up. So something to consider.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for kids' books especially, there's a lot of potential because parents love to stick on the audiobook. Right. I do anyway in the car, at bedtime. It's like, great, here you go, listen to this, go to bed. Right. I mean, my 7 books which is one series, is on audio.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do any promotion, nothing, zero. And look, at the moment, it makes me about $100 a month.
Right.
But that's like after a few months and not doing anything. And the other thing I noticed, which is really weird, is people will buy all of them more often than they do the ebook even, because it's not like, oh, I've got to read the first one. They'll be like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to play them.
Right.
I noticed that they all consistently sell the same amount, rather than like ebooks, the first in series will often, you know, sell the most. But mine, I put them through Authors Republic and only get 70%. So, and then it was just too tricky to take them out. Like I did actually have a meeting with Kelly, who's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, really adore him. But it was so complex to take them off and move them that I sort of buggered it up with that first series. But anyway, you know, definitely would want to use Findaway Voices the next time around. My question is, like, when one of my frustrations is I can't tell where the books sell. Like, I don't know which vendor. Like, I don't know if iTunes is selling them and I should put my effort towards iTunes, or, you know, they're all downloading on some obscure little site. Does that sort of statistical information come through Findaway or not yet?
They do have a dashboard. I don't know how complex at this point. It's something that I haven't asked them about a lot, but I do know it's there. So you should be able to see where your books are selling, and in what quantity. So I think you're good on that. What I can do is follow up with Kelly and ask, but you could do the same, really.
Sure.
But because they're a lot like us. I mean, they have that understanding that this is what authors are looking for, right? They want to know how many, not just how many are selling, but where they're selling, so they could target their marketing. So I'm pretty sure that they do have that stitched up. I know that they had some reporting. So if they're not doing that, what we can do is just pester them, and they'll add.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, that's what I'd do. And how long does it kind of take, the process? Like, in other words, the two options. One is I come with my files ready and, you know, put them up. Is it a fairly simple process?
Usually if you come with your own files, I mean, usually within a few days, the thing is in distribution. If you come and you go through the production process, you know, their aim is to kind of get everybody run through there in about a month. So, and it's going to go at the pace it goes, because, you know, it's also up to you. Right? Because we have to review the files, which means listening to the work and you know, approving things, and there may be changes. So it's hard to put a number on like how many days it's going to take from start to end. If you're a dream client and they're a dream narrator, and, you know, everybody's working well and they're peanut butter and you're jelly, I mean, you may come together and have it in a couple of weeks. I mean, it just depends on how much they want to kill themselves to do it. So ask Marti, man. Marti, well, I'm going to tell you, she's not going to record an entire book overnight.
Well, how do they
record an entire book overnight?
You should. How do they police? Like, police is probably not the right word, but how do they manage, you know, like the quality of the narrators, and, you know, like if there's any conflicts, like, you know, does that ever happen?
Well, as far as the narrators, there's a process for onboarding those guys. So they have to go through a kind of thing. If you're bringing in your own audio, they have their like specifications and requirements that it has to meet. As far as like quality of performance or whatever, I think that's pretty much up to you. You know, if you're a crappy narrator, and we know they exist. I mean, I've heard quite a few books on Audible that sound like train wrecks in progress, you know, but you know, that part's up to you. But as long as it meets the technical specifications, it's usually fine. You might get some blowback from Audible or somebody who are saying that readers are complaining it's a terrible narrator or whatever. But you'd get that on Audible too. I mean, that's just, you know, part of the game.
Absolutely. But so I actually put one of you go, Kevin. Sorry.
No, I was just I'm filler. I was gonna say that they will work with you to figure out, like, if there is a technical issue or something. If it's not meeting spec, they'll work with you to figure that out and fix it. So that's
yeah. So we have we have a small publishing company, and because one of our members is an audiobook narrator and a classroom teacher, that would be me, I have been really insistent that all of our books have audio. So we have audio for every one of our titles, and we're up to 18 titles now. So then that's 18 audiobooks. But the first in series for each book, all the books are obviously in Audible through ACX, just because it's really easy to do it that way for Audible, iTunes, and Amazon, which is the lion's share of sales for us. But the first book in each of the series, we intentionally left open so that we were not doing the exclusivity with through ACX, so that we could have wider distribution if an opportunity became available, or really more because we wanted to be able to produce CDs of the first book in series, because some classrooms still use CDs for audiobooks for like listening centers and stuff. But because of that, we've gotten to use the Findaway Voices. We just put the first in series for all of them through Findaway Voices right away, but we already owned all our audio, right? So then it literally, to do the 4 books that we put through, it literally took a total of 22 minutes to upload them all and just have it be done. So I just wanted to put that out there. So I cannot say how, I haven't looked at the reporting for it, so I have no idea if any copies of any of them have sold at all. But as far as getting them on there, that part of it was really easy. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things we liked about those guys right away is they had the same commitment to making life easy for the author that we have. They've proven that out. I mean, it's been very cool watching, the reaction to this. I had an interview on Mark Dawson's podcast that went live just as Indie Book Fest and NINC were starting in Orlando. So I had hundreds of authors come and talk to me about audiobooks and ask me some of the same questions you guys are asking, and a few questions that I can't answer, and and some questions that embarrassed me, but which is very rare.
I feel like very curious about that. Like, I want to know which questions embarrassed you.
I walk around like this now, just so everybody knows.
I wrote it down. I do. It's like right here.
No. It's been the reception has been incredible. People have wanted this. This is, what I don't know about you guys. I mean, I had I swear to you, I'm not saying this simply because we have our deal with Findaway. I could not stand ACX, right? I can't stand working with it. And if I don't like a system, I don't do it. That's why I didn't, I ended up pulling books from Smashwords before I discovered Draft Digital. I didn't use an aggregator at all because I thought they were all going to be like that. I have 3 books in Audible right now, and they were torturous, and I've got some waiting for me to approve that I'm like, I don't even know if I'm ever going to get to this, because I hate the process there. Findaway's process is much smoother, much more streamlined. We will literally transfer all the important stuff about your book over to that account if you go through our dashboard, so that you don't have to type. I mean, you don't have to do anything. It's a press of a button, and they'll get that stuff, including the manuscript, by the way. And we'll move everything over there so that they can start the audition process. I spent an hour, possibly more than an hour, just trying to find a guy that already agreed to pay to do my book on ACX. Like, I had to call him and get him on the phone and have him walk me through, like, where the hell do I find you in this system? Like, I've typed your name. I've typed the name of books that you.
I literally have a PDF with screenshots to walk authors through that process.
Oh my God.
ACX. Like, they already know they want to work with me and they just want to hire me and not have to do the whole process. Like,
I have an engineering degree. Okay. I have an engineering background. I've worked in software for years. I can't navigate ACX to say, if someone said, you've got 20 minutes to navigate ACX and find your narrator, or we're going to destroy your home, I'd move, because there's no way for me to do it.
That's crazy. Is it that bad? God.
It's not that. People who use it and are used to it, they're like, oh man, it's just, it's just click here, go look up in the top right, and log in on the left, which by the way is completely backwards from every other website in the world, including all of Amazon. Anyway, ACX though opened the door. This is the part where I say I'm very grateful for what they've created. One of the things we love to do is take that thing that someone created and find all the ways they're doing it entirely wrong, and then go do it right. And that's what we're doing. And that's what Findaway is doing,
Yeah.
And Draft Digital as a partner, I mean, we don't get anything. We don't get any cut of like the narrator's rates, neither does Findaway. We make we get kind of a royalty share kind of thing. I don't think it's a royalty share. It's more like a finder's fee. When we refer someone, a referral fee. There you go. I'll use English instead. We'll get sort of a referral fee each time we pass an author through and they go through and start selling. But beyond that, we don't make a dime off of this process. If you go in, on your own we have a link that you can use, but you can also just go in through your dashboard on us. But if you don't sign up with us, I mean, we're not going to make like residuals off of you or anything. So even if you do sign up through us, we're not going to make residuals off of you.
Yeah. And Kevin, can you do your audiobook even if you have, for example, your ebook is in KDP Select, and then can you still do your audiobook through Drafted Digital?
Yep. Technically, you don't even have to have an account through us. It seems to be a little easier if you do, because we'll transfer if you have an account with us, you can set up your tax information, the metadata for your book, your author bio, all that stuff, and we'll transfer all that. Every time you do a book, we'll transfer that stuff with it. You can go to findaway.com, findawayvoices.com/D2D, D number 2D. I have to spell that one out because we don't have the near miss on that. But if you go to that web address, you still get to skip the $49 fee, and we still get credit for it. So you don't have to have a Draft Digital account. I would recommend going ahead and doing the Draft to Digital account. First of all, we have all that cool free stuff like the new ebook templates and the free print layout. Everything's free, so you're not investing anything. So you get to use all the cool free stuff. And even if you're not going to distribute through us and you're going to be exclusive to a certain river, you can still use the files, right? And then everything's still easy. Now, if you do distribute through us, of course, we have a nice, easy, beautiful dashboard to see your sales and royalties and things like that. So, and this voice comes free. You can tune in and listen to me anytime you like.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, it sounds like a done deal. I think everyone's going to just flood you in the next few days.
I welcome the flood. I am here. That's what I'm here for. We can answer any questions that people have about Findaway Voices or otherwise. We can put you in touch with Kelly Lytle if you like, and that right there at Findaway Voices. So if people kind of dip in and see that they like it, but they're still on the fence, they have questions. Here's the deal: no contracts, no money. There's no barrier here. So if you want to use it to distribute to a wider market than just Audible and iTunes, go for it, because you literally don't lose anything, because they distribute to both Audible and iTunes, which are the two biggies, right? You get all of those. You get the promo codes if you want to do promo codes. You still get all that stuff. All the promotional juice that Audible gives you. The only thing you don't get is locked into a contract, and the hassle of ACX. Frankly, you don't get that. I'm sorry. Well, if you want it, I will ask them to create a separate track that makes it more difficult to do this.
Like you can make it harder. So is it possible to go direct to Audible and also to go through? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That's and I'm glad you brought that up, because I do get asked that a lot. If you're already in Audible, and you don't want to jeopardize reviews or sales figures or something like that, as long as you're not exclusive, and I have to emphasize that, because We're not saying that this is a way to get out of your exclusivity. Although we've discovered that if you do approach Audible, sometimes they will let you out of that if you've been in for a certain amount of time. So if you are trying to pull your book out from an exclusivity, you can just contact them and say, and they may have you, if you're doing a royalty split, you're going to have to deal with the narrator on that side. But it might be better for the narrator if you work out a separate arrangement. But often you can do that. But as long as you're not exclusive, you can bring your audiobook, the same audiobook file, and distribute it everywhere. But there's a check system, just like on Draft to Digital. Choose the channels you want.
Absolutely. That's great. And just like to be clear, if you did a 50-50 split with the narrator, you are exclusive, in fact,
right.
Because
that's right.
There's no other way for them to guarantee that you would be paying the narrator. So yeah. Okay.
Well, no, I don't think that's right, is it? Because I was offered the chance to do a royalty split with my narrator, and he said we had the option of either exclusivity or not, and he recommended.
He was probably wrong. I'm like 95% sure.
This is the part of the problem here. I should know that, right? It should be obvious.
Should you? Because I don't feel like you work for them, so like that part of that.
I mean, I should know as an author who contributed work that they're using to make money. And by the way, why am I only getting 40%? When you're selling my product? Well, whatever, but I should know that information because it should be obvious to me. But and maybe it is, and I can be a little dense. I'll own that.
No, it's totally not obvious because the contract, it's like in the contract language, and so like you've got like a giant contract on the screen, and I think most people's inclination is to be like, oh my God, it's too many words, and then they just don't process the rest. So then that's
where's the make me money button?
Right.
That button.
So there's that bit. So I do have a question. So our I told you we have titles, right? And then our titles sell every month, which is great, but they've all earned out in the sense that we've like more than earned back the amount of money that it costs us to do the production, right? Okay. Mainly because of the bonus. Right. So if you're on through ACX and you have you bring a new client to ACX essentially, and your audiobook is the first book that they download for free, I think usually, then you get a $50 bonus payment. And if you are doing a royalty split, the bounty payment. So if you are doing a royalty split, then your narrator gets half of that and you get half. So then that's $25 each. But if you pay your narrators up front, which we do, then you get the whole 50. And so then like 200 and some bounty payments later, all of our
but they don't require, you're not required to be exclusive to do that. So
I'm asking, does it still do that? Still get your bounty if you're going through?
Yeah. Okay, look, if you go to Audible Direct, right? And no reason why you can't, right? You go to Audible Direct, and then you go to Findaway for everything else. You should still be able to do that. Now, I think what your essential question is if you went through Findaway to Audible,
yes,
you still do that.
Yes.
That's a very good question. That's what people say when they're stalling.
It is. It's better than
right. And here's the reason. Okay, so first of all, I don't know that is true. My educated guess is that you would not get a bounty because technically it's Findaway publishing it to that platform. Right. So I'm going to find out about this though because that's a good question. I'm going to put my money on you wouldn't get it. So in that case, if you're dependent upon the bounties, I would say go with Audible and go Findaway to everyone else.
Yeah. Which is just a thing to think about. Yeah, and also a thing that we can put the answer to in the show notes if we figure it out.
Yeah.
And I apologize.
Sorry, go Kevin.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say Authors Republic doesn't give me the bounty and I hate that. Like I can feel I'm losing money and it's like, but I'm in Australia, so there's no choice. We don't, it's a lot of countries like us still can't access ACX. Yeah. So, it's still good that I'm making some money.
Oh,
the bounty,
You bring up a very good point, by the way, that I've forgotten to mention in the past. This is you can get into this program no matter where you are in the world.
Exactly.
So that ACX, you cannot say that for ACX. Now that may change because Amazon
they're
likes
adding
to
new
change
things in. I think they've got Canada now.
They've got Canada, right? Which is a little too late, right? Because Canada,
it's a little small. Canada, right. UK, I think you can UK it now, but
right.
For a long time you couldn't. I have tons of narrator friends who are British but live in Texas, and they were just cleaning up. They were cleaning up because people needed UK voices for their stories, and they were like, there's a limited pool.
Let me tell you something. The UK and Texas, we got a special bromance going on, right? UK loves Texas and Texas loves the UK. Oh yeah. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Especially if I were to kick it out with a southern drawl right now, I'd have British chicks hanging off of me. I'm just telling you.
That's so funny.
So now I see why you need to show the ring, true. Because this is one part of what you're talking about. Keep showing the ring, man. Keep showing the ring.
No further. Whoa. Whoa. No, it's all good. It's all good. No, and I'm totally kidding about that. I have British chicks could care less about me, but that's an interesting. So I love that story, by the way, because I know so many British people, narrators here in Texas. That's where I am. Who I assume are cleaning out. Now I'm going to go harass them.
Go harass them. Totally ask them.
Yeah. And I keep thinking I might like because my thrillers, the guy who narrated my first one is great. He's fantastic, and I loved his work. But if I keep thinking I'd like to have a book narrated by a British narrator at some point, because that says thriller to me. It's like when I listen to one of the Jack Reacher thrillers, I kind of wish he had gone ahead and set it in the UK instead of the US, because then you could have I want to hear, because Lee Child, man, I would like to hear that guy narrate his books. He's a legend.
So fun fact is that the guy who narrates all of the Jack Reacher books, Dick Hill, is the same guy who narrates my Jade and Toussaint series, which is hilarious.
Excellent. Awesome. That is excellent. Wow. I should follow that guy. Call that guy.
Call that guy.
You guys remember after this call, you hooked me up.
He is the most awesome, mostly retired person, but you guys would get along famously. I
do want to talk to him. I actually, while at NINC, I met Diane Capri, who writes the she writes the Hunting Jack thrillers. Which are
I know her, which is the parallel series. Yeah.
They're a parallel series, and she was the highlight of my conference. She was at both of the conferences I was at in Florida. She was totally the highlight of the whole thing. I'm actually going to do some free ads for her, write some ads for her, because I love what she's doing, and it doesn't hurt that she could potentially introduce me to Lee Child. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but no, I love what she's doing, and those are so fun. And we're completely off track, but
we totally are, and we are also running out of time, which is always my job to say. So I want to make sure that we get in our last couple of questions, and that is just for people who don't know. My 8-year-old coughing loudly behind us. We're not. The whole thing is not about to come down.
Briefs. No, I'm kidding.
You're supposed to say 42. You're supposed to say 42. That's the answer.
That's the answer. So, yeah. No, I'm not a sci-fi author anymore. I'm not supposed to know that.
Oh, that's true. Okay, my bad. My bad.
All right, fire away. I'm ready.
So, Elena.
I don't have any more audio book questions, but I do have another question completely unrelated, since I've got Kevin on the line.
Wait, no, wait.
But you finish your audio.
I have one more audiobook question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay,
So
We'll
for
circle back
us,
there.
because our audience is all, or I don't want to say all, because I'm sure there are people who just love us and who listen because we're fun and funny. I don't know who those people are, but thank you for being cool enough to think that we are patient enough to think that we are cool. But most, I think, of the people who listen to our podcast are children's and middle grade authors, and we are always trying to think of ways to be able to make it easy for the school market. So there are lots of ways that ACX has done really well, but getting us into the school market is definitely not one of those ways. So if you may not have the answer to this question about whether or not Findaway Voices is thinking about that. It's a really big market. Audio in schools is huge.
I don't know that they're okay. I'm not going to answer for them on this one because I actually do not know.
Okay.
It seems to me like we've had a conversation about that. What I will say though is because you can control your pricing, you guys, your daughter's in the background. Doug, you're not ducking enough. That's hilarious. Because you control your own pricing, you can make your books much easier for schools to pick up because you could bundle a series. You could do, there's a lot you can do there to make it easier to get into those markets. And I would consider that a marketing tactic is to price low enough that schools are willing to buy an entire series.
Yeah, I think for schools, what seems to be the barrier, and I'm putting also, I guess now because I have you on the line, because you don't know that directly, I'm putting this buzz in your ears. The thing that makes it easier for schools is having an easy access software or an easy access system. So like being able to think about that, like there are a bunch of textbook companies, but they have not agreed. They're doing the thing with the EPUB versus like MOPI thing, right? And are intentionally not agreeing so that schools kind of end up making a choice. So if someone were thinking about how to solve that problem, they could probably crack a lot of
like it.
schools.
Yeah, no.
And get us all in there, which I think would make me happy.
I think you guys are going to have to send me a list of wants and demands and questions.
There we go. Boom.
Because I'm pretty conversant on everything up to what they're thinking about internally, and I can give you lots of information about what Draft Digital is doing and thinking about along these lines. And we're ecstatic about the partnership. Everything's working very well. I think that those are great questions, and they're not topics that have come up for me yet. So send me your list and I'm going to find out, because I know from now on, because that's the case, I'm going to get asked about this in every interview now.
I'm sorry that I put that out in the universe, except if it ends up making it happen in the end. So then that's
good. I actually, and I think you know this about me. I used to teach in both public and private school and in universities. I'm very passionate about, I want the students to be able to have access to information in every way that makes it easier for them, right? Audiobooks are this fantastic tool that gets sort of discounted sometimes, as far as, there's this notion that you're not reading when you're listening, and I disagree with that entirely.
It's also totally false in research. I can send it to you.
It is. Neurologically, the exact same process happens in your brain when you're listening to an audiobook and when you're reading a book. We do an audio translation when we're reading anyway. Even though it's a very visual exercise, the language is audible. That's what it is. So we are translating that internally. All we're doing is shortcutting that and making it a little easier for the the auditory learners out there, that particular modality, to be able to absorb this information in a format that works for them. So I'm this huge advocate for tools that make learning easier and more fun and enjoyable. So I love this idea, So now you've got an advocate. I'll help you out with this anyway.
Yay! Thanks, Kevin.
All right. So what's now you got some more questions, Marty? I know you.
No. I got it now. Now Elena can ask her fun.
There's some non-audiobook questions.
Well, I've got one more audiobook one now because you've spurred something. Well, my question is, like, now this is my experience so far with Authors Republic. I want to know how it works. That's why I'm asking it. So I've got like the 7 individual audiobooks, but I assumed, like with ebooks, that I could make, you know, like one that has them all. You know how you can, box set audio. But I couldn't. I wasn't allowed to do that with them. I don't know why. Like with Authors Republic, they said we can't put what's already in individual titles in one entire title. And I thought, well, that's because I hear Joanna Penn say all the time that, like you said, the Audible credit people want to, you know, like they download a bundle because
they want a massive book. Right.
And so could I have done that with Findaway Voices?
I've done it. I haven't done it through Findaway, but I mean, I've done the bundle. So I mean, there's no barrier to it that I'm aware of. You would have the same content. I mean, no, you see that all the time. There's people doing that all the time. That's what I thought.
I was really confused by that. I thought, oh, that's a bit of a...
That sounds like an internal policy to Authors Republic to me. So maybe they
probably think that it's siphoning. They probably think that, but I don't find that to be.
I can't see that could be. I mean, because you're there. Presumably, if you have, let's say, 3 audiobooks, and you bundled them into and they're each 3 hours, and you bundle them into 9 hours, then presumably you'd price that a little higher, and it would compensate.
Right.
They would make the same money, if not more. So I don't see why that wouldn't. I mean, I don't see why anyone would block that. As far as I know, I mean, Findaway does not block that. I mean, you can have any content you want there. I've actually talked to him about, I'm thinking of taking my podcast episodes and making them into nonfiction audiobooks and making those available for distribution. So if I can do that, there's no reason you couldn't bundle books. I can't see why they would even know.
No, they said
have it done and go.
Yeah, exactly. Spewing. So, I was because I had my ad ready to go, you know, for the bundle, and then it was like, no, you can't do it. I thought, huh? So that was they said I can sell it, for example, through something like CD Baby, or like put it out on my own, but I cannot put it through them as the distributor. Anyways.
Good to know. Sounds like that is an opportunity for you to be able to go through Findaway Voice.
Right, yeah. I mean, do you have those audiobook files?
But can you take like what's individual books with a different partner? Can I take them, put them into a bundle and do that through Findaway Voices, or is that illegal? Because
it's going to depend on your contract with them. If their contract forbids it, then I'd say,
check it.
Always honor your. We as content creators rely on people honoring their contracts. We should always honor our contract.
Absolutely.
But if they don't have any provisions against that, and if you own those audiobook files, then just you're going to have some editing done, because you're going to have to edit out the like intros, all that stuff, and you might have to have some stuff recorded to go between. Basically a new wrapper for the whole thing. I honestly, as far as I know, everything that I know tells me that there's no problem with that. If you get that far, maybe we should reach out to Kelly and ask him that, because honestly, I've seen that done so often that I just assumed it was fine. In fact, I'm doing that with one of my series. So if there's a problem with that, nobody said anything to me.
It slipped through.
Welcome to Kevin's life. All that stuff.
That is a thing to think about, though, for our authors, to be thinking about when you are first commissioning. If you know that you're going to make a boxed set, then you maybe want to add that into the file for your narrator from the beginning.
That's what I did.
So that you have it when it's time.
I had my narrator, so I already had a boxed set for my 3 Citadel books. I had the narrator do the box set, okay, and then we're splitting each book out of the box set and releasing that individually. There is no conflict. I mean, no one's said a thing to us, and we're already doing it. So that's, me working individually. And that was prior to Findaway Voices. So we'll have to see what happens, but I plan on pushing it out far and wide. So
yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, my completely unrelated audio question,
all right,
with that last 5-10 minutes is, look, I listen to you on the Wordslinger podcast, and this is a purely selfish question, so I don't care about anybody listening. Sorry, Marty. But I know that you're a pantser.
Yes,
and I've just finished my first novel ever, because I've got, kids' short story books, but this is like my first novel.
Congratulations.
Yay, I know, I can't believe it. It's at the editors. I'm sure it'll come back with red all over it, but that's a different story.
If it doesn't, it wasn't worth it. It's like my granny used to say, if you didn't get any on you, it wasn't worth eating. This is the same.
I love it. And, I sort of tossed and turned a long time, do I plan it? Do I pants it? In the end, it turned out I'm a pantser. And I know you are. And I just
welcome to the fold.
Well, a few things I want to ask. One is, how have you resisted the urge? Like every day I feel like that little voice, or, I see Facebook stuff that says, I used to be a pantser, but now I'm a plotter and the world is so much better. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. And I have these moments of, like, maybe that's what I should be doing. How have you resisted that after 40 books?
When I first started doing this stuff, and, I was reading, I read Libby Hawker's Take Off Your Pants, which I recommend to people if you do want to outline and plot and outline. I did think to myself, man, I'm faking it, right? And I needed to be if I'm going to be a real writer, I better learn how to sit down and do the outline. And I would do treatments, and I would do, story beats and all that stuff. So I tried that for a while. My metric though is, anything I'm doing, the metric is, am I producing the book? Right. 90% of the time when I would outline a book, I'd lose enthusiasm for it and I wouldn't finish it. So when I pants a book, I keep that enthusiasm throughout, and I get very creative. I do the work. I mean, I produce. I think some people work better when they have that blueprint in front of them. Nick Thacker, one of my writing partners, he needs that blueprint, and that's fine. If I'm collaborating with him or anyone else, they hand me an outline and I'll write to their outline. I don't have a problem with that part. For me, it was all about, expending the energy to tell the story before I tell the story. Just bogged me down in the mud, and I never got anywhere. So the way I resisted it is, I'd rather have the book exist than to do it properly. I don't blame people for plotting. I was ready to do it, by the way, when I was in that competition to write a book with oh my gosh, he's the most famous writer in the world, just James Patterson. He blew right out of my head, because when he blew out of my head, I didn't win. But I was in that competition to try to, be a co-author with him, and he's a heavy outliner, and they go through that thing, 20, 30 times before he actually writes the book, before either of you writes the book. I was ready, but it was killing me. I did a whole outline plot thing to turn over, and I'm like, I did my best. Let's hope it's enough. So I'm going to write that book one day, because I did put in all that work, but my enthusiasm for the book just waned immediately. So that my secret is, I want to actually finish the book so I don't plot.
Yeah. And I know Dean Wesley Smith, his book was quite,
oh man,
quite really pushed me. Like when I read that, I think it comes back to know thyself, like if you know who you are. Because I read his book and went, that's what I always think about everything.
Yeah, I'm saying way. Writing into the Dark was the name of that.
Writing into the Dark. And even
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, even the other day when he had something out about, don't give your book to beta readers and don't let other people destroy your story. Like, it sounds so funny, but that's always been my gut feeling, even though we get told all the time, You need beta readers. You need beta readers.
I don't call them beta readers. I call them my street team. They're the same thing, but I don't do developmental editing. And you can take any pot shot you want. If you want to say, well, that's why your books are not so great, Kevin. But I do okay. But I don't use them for that. I use them for copy editing and helping me find some obvious goofs and flaws and that sort of thing. So I think you can do that. I had him on my show, and I learned a lot from him.
So I think too that part of that is hearing feedback doesn't mean you have to use it, right? So like when you hear something from someone, you're like, huh, that is interesting. Like I would not have guessed that would be the reaction from that. Right.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, by the way.
You know?
Part of the role of the professional, when you become a professional in any field, your role is to decide which information you use. That's what it means, right? So you can get feedback from even let's say I hand a manuscript over to Lee Child, for example, and he gives me some notes. It's up to me. I can't just fanboy and decide I'm going to do what he told me to do. His opinion is going to carry more weight than a couple of my street team folks who tell me the same thing. But if you're getting the same sort of feedback from the 100 or so people that are on your street team or beta readers, now that might be something to pay attention to. So as a professional, your job is to go out and get the feedback you need to make the book the best it can be, and you have to decide whether that information is useful or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it has been so cool to have you on again.
I love coming on, man. We might have to make this a regular thing. I'm gonna have to pop in.
We'll talk to you like in another 20 episodes. It'll be great. We'll please sked for that. So can you just let people know where they should find you online, and also where they should find more information about your partnership with Findaway Voices online? Okay.
You can first off, you can find information on our blog at draftdigital.com. If you go in and you search for Findaway Voices in the little search box there, it'll pull it up. There are a couple of posts, one of which is a very detailed post that I occasionally update with new information. It will tell you, I hope, everything you need to know. And if you don't get what you need, hit the support button up top and ask Tara or Crystal or one of the other fine folks who handle our author support. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to kevintumlinson.com. That's all things Kevin Tumlinson right there, except for that one other Kevin Tumlinson who has no internet presence whatsoever because I robbed him of his birthright. So
your shared birthright.
And I'm breaking out Wordslinger Podcast. It's already got. I already have the domain. It points in the right places. Wordslingerpodcast.com. But I'm breaking it out into its own site soon, getting it off the back of my author site. Kind of trying to separate. I'm trying to silo the different parts of my life a little as I bring on, personnel and things like that. I'm trying to I'm going to try to put some pants on that show, make it a little more presentable to the public. Yeah. That's off brand though. I got to come up with a different way to describe that. That's off brand. Can't put pants on it because I invented pants optional.
So, Elena, will you remind everyone where they can go to find us online?
So you can find us online and the show notes at www.indiekidlitpodcast.com. Thank you again for listening. We really appreciate your support. It would be awesome if you could leave a review, even a one word thank you, whatever really helps the show be found. And thanks for tuning in.